frequency distance is a whole tone. Ni, dha, ni, that distance is a whole tone. Sa, ni, sa, you can feel it to be closer, that is a half tone. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Okay, this is a major scale popular through a lot of compositions. Now what we will do is we will use the same algorithm of tones, a whole tone and half tone, but we will move the scale so that Carnatic music can also be sung on a relative basis at a different starting point. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. So we started from D and went all the way to D with the same algorithm: whole tone, half tone, whole tone, and half tone. Coming back to the main description. Similarly, other algorithms can also be defined. One other choice is called the minor scale, which is in reality a generic name for three different algorithms. One of them goes as follows: whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, and whole tone, with the freedom to choose the first key. Okay, if your mind is racing to figure out what this is, we will look at an example of it in music pretty soon. I'm not giving the selection rules for the other two minor algorithms. Again, there are 12 keys and we can select as our first key, and therefore we can generate 12 sequences of per minor algorithm, and there are 3 such minor algorithms, bringing a grand total of 12 times 3 or 36 possible minor scales. But we discover that many of these scales repeat themselves, and in reality the number of unique scales or unique ragas are fewer than the 36 minor plus 12 major scales. Okay, so let's take a look at the minor scale. This is the illustration of one of the minor scale, just like we did the major scale. This is based on C minor. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Now this corresponds to a ragam called Natabhairavi, or the 20th Melakarta ragam in the Carnatic music scale. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. We come back to the main discussion. Coming back to the Indian system, even the ancient Tamil literary work Silapadikaram talks of an algorithm called Ilikramam. Fascinating as it sounds, the rules of Ilikramam are quite similar to the selection of major and minor scales. It's really fun to work out this algorithm and derive a bunch of scales. If you're interested in this, refer to Professor Ramanathan's book in the reference section. In fact, nothing stops you at this point to go ahead and create your own selection rules and choose 7 keys out of 12 in the octave. Let's turn our attention to Carnatic music. Also, at this point, I will depart from talking about Indian classical music in general and stick only to South Indian music. Wherever relevant, references will be made to the Hindustani music. In Carnatic music, a very famous algorithm exists to select the keys in an octave which form the basis of important scales, which are called the Melakarta scheme. The Melakarta scheme selection algorithm is as follows. You can refer to figure 3 or table 2 in the main text if you'd like, but I'll illustrate this also in music. Rule 1. Always select the first white key, that is Sa. Always select the Pa key, that is the 5th. This is a convenient midpoint of the octave, sort of. Rule 3. Select one of the Madhyamam keys, Ma 1 or Ma 2. Notice that one of them is a black key and another is a white key in the keyboard. Once selected, this key is your Madhyamam or Ma. Rule 4. Select any 2 of the 4 keys in the lower tetrachord or Purvangam from keys 2, 3, 4 and 5. Once selected, the first of these 2 keys will be your Re and the second will be your Ga. Rule 5. select any two keys out of the four keys in the upper tetrachord from keys 9 to 12. Once selected, the first of these two keys will be your dha and the second will be your ni. This rule is exactly like rule 4. Once all the 7 keys are chosen, you have your complete sarigama padani. Let's see how many melakartas or scales we can build in this way. By rule 4, you can choose 2 keys out of 4 in 6 different ways by going by the elementary combination theory. Similarly, going by rule 5, we can choose 2 keys out of 4 in 6 different ways. By rule 6, you can choose 1 key out of 2 in 2 different ways. So we get 6 times 6 times 2, or 72 melakarta or melakarta ragams. So this ragam, the scheme was formed by an old Indian scholar called Venkatamaki, that sets out the 72 base of sampurna or full-fledged ragams in Carnatic music, out of which all other ragams are derived because they are subsets of these. And these 72 ragams are all unique, and they have an interesting naming system we shall see later. By definition, the melakarta ragams are symmetric with respect to going up and down in a scale. Saying the same thing more technically, in melakarta ragams, the arohana and avarohana are simply reversed. The sequence sarigama padani is arohanam, and the reversed sequence sanidapa magari is avarohanam. The melakarta ragams are also called sampurna ragams or complete ragams. Interestingly, even the melakarta selection algorithm allows us to choose all 7 white keys, same as the Western C major scale. In Carnatic music, we call the resulting melakarta ragam as Shankarabharanam, and that was what we looked at earlier when we looked at the major scale. You may have also heard of this ragam or the movie called Shankarabharanam. In Hindustani music, the set of all white keys is called the Bilawal That, one of the major building blocks of the Hindustani musical system. Let's go back to table 2 and see why notation 1 makes sense. For example, you can pick any 2 keys from the keys 2, 3, 4, 5 and still call the first one of those as Re and the second one as Ga. And if you choose the keys 2 and 5, then you will sing out Re when you strike key 2 and Ga when you strike key 5. And on the other hand, if you choose keys 3 and 4, you will say Re for key 3 and Ga for key 4, and so on. The rule is the first key to be used among these 4 keys is a Re and the second one is called a Ga, no matter which absolute position the keys are located. Keys 3 and 4 have the dubious honor of being a Re or Ga depending upon the situation, and this particular setup is known as the Shatshruti or the Shodashaswarasthanam schemes. These arguments are valid in the upper tetrachord in the choice of Da and Ni as well. Now perhaps we can understand why 3 keys were designated as Re, Ga or Da or Ni. There is one of these 3 keys are usually an alias for another Rishabham in terms of absolute frequencies. A caveat: I am using the word ragam in a loose sense here. A ragam is not just a scale or a bunch of keys, it is much more than that. Remember, I have told you over and over and over again that microtones are everything in Indian classical music, that is gamakas, and keys in a keyboard are simply digitized approximations. So we shall take an example to illustrate this. The 7 white keys are not enough to give the resulting music the flavor of the ragam Shankarabharanam. It is those 7 keys plus all the associated microtones which constitute the Shankarabharanam scale. Okay, so let's take a look at how the Shankarabharanam plays out. So we will now do the Arohana Avarohana of the ragam.